The filing rule number 11 is for government names. In fact, we have talked about it very briefly earlier in the earlier rules. I think rule number 4 and 6 or so about government names. But this is where we're going to get the details of how we index government names. It uses all the rules that we have learned so far as a base, and then we will introduce a little more specific rules about government names. So when I say government names, I'm talking about government departments and agencies of a federal government or state government or city or any local governments. So it does not include non-profit organizations or any kind of organizations that is not part of a government. So this is for specific organizations that is a government offices and agencies and so on. So let's talk about a little more detail. So this will include United States government agencies, for example, the Department of Education or Department of Defense and so on. And then we will also talk about state, city, county offices and departments in the United States. And then thirdly, we'll talk about foreign governments. To be frank, I don't think we'll encounter with foreign government agencies that often. So that's why we put it to the last. But they all use the same principle, either federal government, local government, or foreign government. We just use the same principles, which is this basic, I call that priorities. So basic structure has 3 priorities. So this scheme is something slightly separate or independent from the units. When we index names, we use an index, like what is unit 1, 2, and 3, and so on. Yes, we do use that here, but before you actually start applying the units or allocate the units, you need to prioritize the names or parts of the names first, based on the following 3 categories. First priority is a geography. So it basically means oftentimes it's a name of a country or name of a state, for example, Washington State or Oregon and so on, and then city name such as Shoreline, Linwood, Everett, Seattle, and so on. And then also it could mean county names as well, not the country names only, but county names or townships and so on. So basically geography of that government agency. This does not mean actual physical location of the office, but it's more of the region, geographic region that it governs. So for example, the education of a department of the U.S. Department of Education may be in Washington, D.C., but because it governs or it has the function all over the country, we will consider it as a United States federal agency, not Washington, D.C. agency. Okay? So that's a distinction. When we say geography, we mean the region that agency governs or functions its activities and so on. Okay, so that's a priority number 1, and priority number 2 is something called function. it's very simple, straightforward. It's basically what's the purpose of that agency. For example, the education department or Department of Defense. So let's say Department of Defense, the function of that is defense. Or Department of Education, the function of that is education. Okay. And then priority number 3 is something called designation. Well, essentially, it basically means the unit, office unit that it belongs to. So, for example, let's say we have Washington Department of Education. So, what is the geographical region that this office work with or governs? Well, it is a Washington state. So, we write down or transpose this government name as first Washington, that's a geographical region, and then second is the function. What's the function of this office? Well, it's education. And then the designation, well, designation is, in this case, Department of. So essentially, it is the name of the unit that it belongs to. So it could be Department of, or Office of, or Bureau of, and Division of, or something. So that's the example. Here's another example. Let's say Office of Arts and Culture, Seattle. So what is a geographical region that this office governs? Well, it's a Seattle. So the first is Seattle. Second, the function of it is it's about arts and culture. So just as a footnote, I converted the emphasis symbol into the word and when I transpose that. And then that's the designation. It's office of. So let's quickly take a look at the website of Seattle. Let's see, Office of Arts and Culture. So that's one way to kind of confirm the official name of an office or department or of the unit. So you can go to the website, or you can search it, the internet, for example, using Google, or you can search with Wikipedia to find out the official or full name of a government agency. All right, so that's the basic structure in terms of priority. So as I said, setting these priorities is similar to units, but it's not exactly the same. So it's not the order of appearance. It's not necessarily the important order of importance, but it's a specific rule. First, geography. Second, the function, and third, designation. And of course, there's a very logical reason why these are set in this order, not any other way. But it should be fairly straightforward once you get practiced with the filing and why it is set up this way, not any other way. All right, so let's talk about more detail about geography. Okay. So country name, for example, well, United States, or United States of America. That's a country name. State name, for example, Washington State, or Oregon, Idaho, California, and so on. And then we have not country name, but county name. So Shoreline, the city of Shoreline is part of King County, I believe that's the case. So county includes cities, towns, or some unassociated regions. I forget the exact terminology, but anyway, so county can include towns and cities inside. All right, then city names such as shoreline. And I already mentioned, to find the exact correct name, use Google, Wikipedia, or for that matter, in old-fashioned way. And actually, probably the most official way would be using Blue Pages if you have still have the phone book. Okay. By the way, why is it Blue Pages? Because the tab of the pages is in blue. For example, white pages, yellow pages, well, blue pages for government and government agencies. They are listed separately in something called Blue Pages. Okay, here's a very specific rule. First specific rule, okay, and that is for all U.S. agency, like the Department of Defense, Departments of Justice, Justice Department, Department of Health, all the federal agencies, you must have or use United States government as a first unit. Okay, this is a biggie, so I want you to be very clear about this. For any U.S. agencies, whether that's located in Washington, D.C., or that could be located in Seattle, Washington, or that could be located in Egypt or somewhere in Europe, it doesn't matter. If there's a U.S. agency, federal agency, you must use these three words exactly as spelled. United States government as their first unit when you transpose the name. Okay, and something similar, I'll explain to you why this is the case, but later on, something similar principle will be applied when you do local government, but it is slightly different. So anyway, just for any federal government agency, the first unit is United States government. Spell it out exactly. All right, so the unit 1 is always the name of a geographical unit. So why? Because that's the priority number 1, geographical, okay? And then follow the 5 function and designation. So coming back here, the unit 1 has to be the name of a geographical unit. For example, state, county, and city. So you may wonder, let's finish this one. For example, Parks Department. So there's a Parks Department in the city of Linwood, government. And when you have that, when you transpose it, what's the first unit? Well, first unit is geographical region. It is Linwood. Whether you see the city of name of the city in the business card or letterhead or whatever, whether you see it or not, the name of the city or region, once you find out this Parks Department belongs to Linwood, you must use Linwood, the geographical region or geographical name, as the unit 1. That is similar in terms of principle. That's similar to U.S. federal government. Remember that United States government. If that is U.S. United States government agency, federal agency, you use that as a geographical identification. Same thing here. If you find out if some department belongs to a certain city, use that as the first unit. And then followed by actual name of the department and so on. So that's straightforward, just very the same way as you would name or transpose business names. Okay, so that's geographical. And let's talk about a little bit more about functions and designation. These are very, very simple. So whenever you have the function, how you determine the function is basically what is the purpose of that agency and what do they do? Do they do something about growing food? Well, that's agriculture. And do they talk about buying, selling, retail, wholesale, that sort of company? That's commerce. So Department of Commerce, the function is commerce, selling, buying, and so on. Defense is similar idea. If the agency or department or office is something to do with defense, the function is the defense. Okay? All right, so you just write down the exact name of the function as like it is a business name. Just you don't have to change the order of the words or anything like that. Okay, then the third priority is a designation. It's basically what you see is what you get. It could be named as an agency, or board, or bureau, or commission, department, division, ministry, office, and service, and so on. So ILS, for example, Internal Revenue Service. That's a service is the name of this designation. Let's see, I think there's a bunch of commissions in the federal level about exchanges of communication, commission, bureau, like a Bureau of Investigation, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Board of Education, agencies, the number of agencies, let's see. Okay, so I think that's fairly straightforward and self-explanatory. All right, so let's talk a little bit more detail about function. So function is basically what they do and what is it about. Okay, so for example, you have Forest Service. And Forest Service is a unit or I guess some kind of let's see group of employees and functions. They work under the department or inside of the Department of Agriculture. So Department of Agriculture is about anything that is grows, like your food grow, trees and animal stocks and so on. And in that department, you have Forest Service, kind of a sub-office. So what is the function? So when you see this name, let's say this is federal government. So prior to number one is a geographical. So you will say U.S. government. That's straightforward. And then second priority will be the function. So what is the function here? Well, when you have two functions, one is agriculture and the other one is Forest Service. So it talks about anything to grow, but inside of that you have trees. So the primary function of this Forest Service Department of Agriculture, the primary function is agriculture because that's the hierarchy. So at the top you have Agriculture Department, and under Department of Agriculture you have Forest Service, you may have Farms Administration, you may have Food Service, you may have different sub-units, but primary function is agriculture. And then once you have that, then you take care of the designation, department of. And then this subunit, so subunit of agriculture comes last, after the designation. Okay? So you have sub-office of the main office. In that case, you take care of the main office first by the function. Of course, that's after geographical designation, like a United States government. And then after that, the function, agriculture, and then designation. And then you specify the identification of the sub function. So it should be kind of a reasonable or logical to you and or to most of us, because when we try to organize, we think about the big group, like a Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, and so on. And under that department, the top hierarchy, and you have like sub-offices: Forest Service, Farm Bureau, maybe Weather, Livestock Exchange, or something like that. So those are sub-functions. So they come after you take care of the main function. Okay, so let's talk about units. All right, so I've been kind of putting it off this because this is not that critical in terms of a practical use of this rule. But in terms of taking the test and so on, this could be a little bit tricky, but not exactly. Again, when you transpose an index of a name, you first prioritize by these three categories. One is geographic, the second one is a function, and then designation. And then once you have that, once you separate that, then you put the unit order. So, for example, U.S. Department of Education. So this Department of Education is the federal level. So it is a federal level, so we say United States government. So this could be omitted here, okay? So let's say you work in Washington, D.C., and your job is working and making deals with the officials with Department of Education. And when you say Department of Education, you know you're talking about the federal agency. Okay, so you may have just like that, but since you already know that it's a federal agency, you have to file it under United States government first. And then you have the function, which is education, and then Department of. So in practical reason, the word department and then of, they always come together. So, and of course, of will come after department always. So it doesn't matter whether you have Unit 5 and Unit 6, because that's always will be. But in terms of taking the test and that sort of kind of things, that's why I put it this way. So there's no change here. So the first units will be United States government, and the second part follow-up will be the function, and then third will be the designation. But I just put it the units in this way. I separate it this way to be clear when you take the test. So you may be asked, what's the sixth unit of this name that belongs to United States federal government? Okay, let's say that's the question. Then you will specify these units in this way. But in practical, when you actually work with these documents and files, you don't need to worry about which one is Unit 5 and Unit 6 because they are already inherently in that order. Okay. All right, and let's talk about with more examples. Okay, U.S. government names. Okay, so for example, there's a Department of Commerce. Again, this is a federal agency, federal office. So again, whether you have, okay, hold on just 1 second. Let me put this back. U.S. Okay. So whether you have the U.S. or United States or whatever, whether you have it or not, if you know this Department of Commerce is federal agency, you must say and file it under United States government, followed by the function commerce, and followed by the designation Department of. And let's see, what about, this is a good example. Okay, so Internal Revenue Service, that's IRS, they take care of taxes and so on. And IRS, or Internal Revenue Service, is a part of Treasury Department. So the Treasury Secretary of federal government oversees Internal Revenue Service. So what will be the first unit? As I said, since this Treasury Department governs the entire United States, the first unit has to be United States government. That is followed by the function, which is Treasury. That Treasury function is followed by department, the designation. And then there's the sub-office or sub-unit, that is Internal Revenue Service. So if you want to, you can kind of visualize or set a kind of rational idea. For example, if you are delivering a mail to Internal Revenue Service, let's say you're filing a tax on April 15th, and you send this mail to the Internal Revenue Service, and that letter or the postal package will have to go to the United States government first, correct? And then it has to go to Treasury Department. And then inside of Treasury Department, then you go to the sub-office, Internal Revenue Service. Okay, so you can kind of visualize how mail or package would have to go through in order to reach the final destination. And that's the order it is set up. Okay? All right, so now let's talk about state and local government. So it is a little bit confusing, but it is, they use the same logic and same rule as the federal government. It's just slightly different in terms of what to put. So for example, the state and local government, the first thing that you need to be aware is that the geographical unit is where the agency functions or governs. So you could have Board of Education let's do this, the Board of Education in a city. And also you could have a Board of Education in the county. And then you can have a Board of Education in the state government. So you could have at least 3 Board of Educations, but if that Board of Education belongs to a city, then the geographical region is a city, the name of the city. If the Board of Education functions or governs the state level, the whole state, then the geographical unit will be the name of the state. So let's take a look at this example. So we have a Board of Education. It governs, it is located in Freeport, Maine, and Maine is a name of a state in northeastern part of the United States, and Freeport is a name of city, and then there's a Board of Education. So based on this, it is clear that this Board of Education governs or functions in and functions for the city of Freeport, which is located inside of a Maine, state of Maine. So the first unit, when you transpose, when you index, is Freeport. This is not the name of a city. Well, it happens to be the same name, but this is not the name of city. This is the name of geographical identification, meaning that it governs or functions in the region of Freeport. Okay? And it should be clear when we come down to number 4 here. So this is a geographical identification. And then the function, and then designation, and the name of city, and the name of state. Because we have you could have a Board of Education for the city, you could have Board of Education for the county, you could have Board of Education for the state. So, but you, since you could have 3 boards of education, you specify or you distinguish by putting the name of the city. Or if this is for county, you could say county name. Or if it's for the state, for example Maine, then the geographic identification is not Freeport. It may be located, physically located in a building that is inside of a city of Freeport, but this Board of Education right now, it is for the state, so the geographical identification here should be Maine, not Freeport. Okay? So let's be clear about that. And then let me undo that. So let me get back to the first example. That's a geographical identification, not just name of a city. And then function, it's about education, and the Board of Education, that's a destination. And then, since we could have a multiple boards of education, to distinguish different Board of Education, you put the name of city. And since we have name of city, we put name of a state. So just like Shoreline, Washington, or Seattle, Washington, the city comes first, and then after that, the state. Okay? So let's compare that with this example. Oregon Department of Education. So that tells me this is a state level. And also Salem is the state capital of Oregon. So Oregon Department of Education is located in the city of Salem. That's part of a state of Oregon. So here, prior to number 1, and also unit 1 is Oregon, because we know this agency is in Oregon. Not because it says Oregon Department of Education. It doesn't come down automatically. We have Oregon as a unit 1 because we know this Department of Education governs and functions for the state of Oregon. Okay? and then function, designation, and where it is located, city and state. All right, so let's take a look at the third example. This is a little bit more potentially confusing. So, water department. So they take care of, the water that we drink. So that's straightforward. That's a function, water and department. And then we have Stafford County. So this water department governs in the region of Stafford County. But that water department is located in the city of Stafford. That is part of Virginia, state of Virginia. Okay, so let's take a look at the Stafford. Okay, so let's see. So here's the United States. And here's Washington in Seattle. And let's fly over to the East Coast. And that's where the Stafford County is. So here's a Delaware, there's a Washington, D.C., and here's a Virginia somewhere here. And that region within that red line is Stafford County. And in Stafford County, Virginia, we have a town name or city name, Stafford. So let's get in more detail. And let me click on it. So that is the city. Let me just go ahead and close that. So that is basically the city of Stafford. So Stafford is known for, the beauty. It's a right, this river. I think that's Delaware River. I think, or maybe not. I'm not sure. Then there's also the Big Bay, but also there's a very well-known golf course. Augustine Golf Club, very exclusive, and I think that's where the U.S. Open golf tournaments happens. Anyway, here's a Stafford. That's the city over here. That's the city, and then this region surrounding the city Stafford is also called Stafford County. So that's what's going on here. So water department governs for this county of Stafford, and that department is located in Stafford. So I guess the Stafford city is the seed of the county Stafford County. So they have county, not only city government, but also county government offices is in the Stafford, Virginia. Stafford, that is a city. All right. So what is a geographical region that functions? Well, it's a Stafford County, not Stafford the city. And then what it does? Well, it takes care of water, and there's a designation, and then it's inside of the city named Stafford, that is also part of Virginia. Okay. So I think I am clear about this. Okay, so so here's example, more explanation here. So there could be more than one water department. So water department for the county, water department of the city, water department of region, or water department of the state of Virginia. So since there will be more than one water department, then you separate it or distinguish it by the city name and the county name. So even then, I think now I just realized that we have a potential problem. For example, water department that belongs to this Stafford County is located in Stafford, and I suspect if there's a water department for the city of Stafford, probably is also located in Stafford. So we have exact identical identification indexes for both county water department and city water department. So all tied, they're equal, then what do? Well, then you're going to have to uh, split the difference to the very end, like a street address. But that's for later. That's for next rule. All right, so let's take a look at quickly foreign governments. So we have, for example, Ministry of Agriculture for the Republic of Tunisia. And so we say prior to number 1, geographical ID, that's Tunisia, and Republic of, that's the geographical name, and then function, and then designation. So here you may say this, well, this is a designation too. Yes, it is. It is a designation, but realize that that designation is a part of the name of the country. So it could be Republic of Ireland. It could be People's Republic of China. That's the whole thing is a country name. So you have to put that like a Republic of as a part of the name Tunisia. But remember, we put Republic that's after Tunisia, because that's name, actual name, and then that's more like subjugated. I think that's that might be wrong, but I think that's the term. So identify that, and then you say it's a Republic of. That's the whole thing is the name of the country, and then function and the destination. And if you convert that into unit orders, so Tunisia, Republic of Agriculture, Ministry of. Okay, but it's essentially these orders is basically practical is and same as this. All right, I think that's it. One last thing, I have created a discussion board under. Let me just go ahead and publish this discussion board under modules, and modules go to week 4, and it says Rule 11 discussion. Post your question here. So go ahead and click on it, and I posted this very PowerPoint here. You can review it, and when you have questions, just go ahead and post a question. Just click. Oh, let me just cancel it. Just go ahead and click on this reply button, and then you type the question, or any kind of argument about the rules. Anything is welcome, and then you can reply to the reply, give your feedback or answers and so on, and your participation will be graded for extra credit. So you don't have to do it, but if you do it, and if I consider it as a meaningful contribution in our learning, I'll be happy to give you extra credit. All right, so that's it. And let me know, post a question here or email me. Thank you.